This is Matt Siegel presenting my mobile learning presentation for EDCI 633 through Ashland University. This would be my presentation to my school board. As we see our students becoming more and more engaged in the 21st century, there is a need to be educated in 21st technology. Our students need this to be successful in the workplace. As we start to see our students, they need to be engaged in the classroom. They don't need to be lulled to sleep in the classroom. Teachers want to use resources within the classroom, but many of our classrooms are outdated and the teachers are very restricted with the technology they have within that classroom. They are restricted by a traditional classroom. The students want the technology within the classroom. The students want freedom from a traditional classroom. Technology would bring that to them. Mobile learning would bring that to them. Students want to have them be able to engage in a freedom outside of the confines of the traditional classroom, and we can give them through this chance through mobile learning. Mobile learning can offer teachers and students the chance to enhance their use and skills with technology that will make them more talented educators and better professionals in a 21st century world. As we start looking at mobile learning, we start to see how mobile learning will help introduce new technology to our students and enhance the interaction between our students and teachers, allowing for teachers to give them more individual instruction as the students need them. Not only will they give them more individual instruction, but the students will be able to interact with the teacher more on a one-to-one basis, and also they will be able to interact with the teacher in the classroom or at home, where their parents can be more involved with the student themselves. Not only more involved with the students, but also more involved with the student's education. Now, there are some things we need to look at when we're talking about mobile learning. As we look at the need for mobile learning in our district, we will look at what mobile learning will bring to our district. Mobile learning will give students immediate interaction with teachers and differentiated instruction amongst those students. The students will still be a part of the classroom and get the collaboration and camaraderie of their other students, but they will be working through the material while they get vital skills within 21st technology. They will be able to use this technology outside of the classroom, and they will be able to use these skills in a manner that will help them be successful in the 21st century. There are some challenges that will become from this mobile learning, and some of those challenges that we need to look at will be the cost of the mobile learning program. What will the cost to the students be? What will the cost to the parents be? How will it affect the teachers? Will there be more cost to the district, more cost to the community? And as we look at those challenges, we have to think that, well, we already have computers in our school. The students are already enrolled in our school system, so there's not going to be any cost for enrollment. Due to the fact that we have school computers, there's no device cost initially. If the program is successful, when we can think about updating and bringing in new computers for this. The teachers are already in our schools, so we would use existing teachers. No extra teachers would be needed. As far as, are we ready for this? Well, we would have to have education on the devices being used, education on the software to be used, and education on how to understand the use of the devices and the limit of the devices in order to limit distraction from the students and to make sure they are being monitored effectively So there's no chance they will use inappropriateness to actually use the computer or the devices we would be using. As we start thinking about the challenges, we also think about why we would need a program like this. Well, we think that the students want the technology. They want to use the technology. Every day, a student has some form of technology in their hand, whether it be an electronic device such as an iPad or a tablet or a cell phone or a laptop or mobile computer. The students want to use this technology. The question is, why do we not use this or allow our students to use this? And as we start to think about the need for the district and the community, well, our students and teachers need to start thinking about reduced class sizing. With the form of mobile learning, we would be taking students that would reduce our class size so we wouldn't have to build a new high school or any school. We would allow them to be getting the same education in a mobile atmosphere. They would be more individualized instruction and possibly getting a greater education due to the fact they will be mobile learning. And also our students need the skills and technology. They're going to go into a workforce where skills are already being used in mobile technology, not just on their cell phone, but on a computer atmosphere. And these skills would allow them to be successful in a 21st century workplace. As we start to think about the program itself, we would initially start it with a rollout program, and we would limit it to one class of students per high school. Our district currently has 3 high schools, so we would have 3 total classes. We would again limit the class size to 25 students per school for a maximum of 75 students in the program. In which each building, one of the 3 high schools, would all have a classroom with computers, and these computers would be the ones existing in the schools itself. The laptops that we would have to issue or would issue to the students would be laptops that are already in our district, and we would allow the students to be using those on a consignment basis. They are responsible for the computers and responsible for any kind of usage, and possibly be returned at the end of the program. They would also be able to use their own computers. So again, a minimal cost to the district because we already have these materials. As we start thinking about the need for it and how we would do it, we have to understand, are we really ready for a mobile learning? And to have that come across, we would have to have our teachers required to go through appropriate training on the mobile learning software, including understanding the network agreement within the teachers and the students, so they would be able to monitor the students to make sure they are appropriately using the computers and the network. We would also have to have our staff be appropriately trained on designing their lessons to be more of a mobile learning lesson instead of an in-class lesson. But this training would be minimal for the teachers, so that it would just be a minimal cost and some time for the teachers to go through this training. Also, students would be required to actually go through an application process, and one of those parts of the application is a reference from their core teachers. Core meaning math, science, English, and social studies. And if they are approved to become into the program, they would be required to go through classes to understand the usage of the computers and the network process. If for any reason they would go against those, they would also be informed of the consequences required by the program. Along with the district, the teachers and students being going to this, the monitoring of the computers and usage to the network would be followed by the network agreement, which would also be monitored by the district itself. As far as some challenges and time restraints, well, we would stay within the confines of the school year and school hours. So our teachers would be contractually abide by the district's policy and the board accepted hours of the school day. The students must be logged into the program for a minimum number of hours as described by Ohio Department of Education. The students would also be able to log in hours at home, and those would be monitored and recorded by the district. The teacher would keep the hours within the school day as by the contracted board contract, but on their own time, if they would like to monitor students' involvement, that would be acceptable, but it would be on their own means. As far as planning goes, we would think about what schools we would use and how many teachers we would use. As I said, we would think about one class per building, so 3 classes, 75 students total, and we would have 4 teachers per building, 3 administrators, and 1 technology services technician. Well, each building would have 4 teachers, 1 for each core subject area, an administrator to work with the students involved and monitor the curriculum, and the technology service technician would be shared between the 3 buildings. The teachers would be under contractual guidelines in which they would be giving 2 periods to teach the mobile learning class, while they would also be teaching 3 traditional classes. So under the contract, they would still be limited to 5 classes per day. The administrator would not be taken away from their regular duties, but they would also be enrolled in monitoring the technology part of this and delivering any consequences under the network agreement if anything would arise. As far as what we would want to do with our initial phase, well, our devices are already being used. We would just situate those so they would be part of the mobile learning program instead of in a workshop or library, and we would take those 25 computers to allow for students. Students would also be able to use their personal devices, and if they would use their personal devices, this would limit the usage of district technology. The program would follow all districts' curriculum as far as the subjects of the core with math, English, science, and social studies, and the students would have to take the same exams or core curriculum exams as a normal or traditional student. Along with that, the district's network agreement would be used for all program usage on-site or off-sites, and the students would understand the consequences if they went against that network agreement. As we look at prepping for the implementation of the program, we start thinking about what network we would be using, and we would use the existing network from the district. Now, there would be some bogged down time with the bandwidth, but in this initial phase, we are only limiting to 75 students. So after the initial phase and we found success with it, there would be a possible increase in bandwidth and possibly a separate server for the mobile learning. As far as the hardware we would be using, we would use existing desktops and laptops already under the ownership of the district. They may have to be reconfigured to handle the software, but in the initial phase, we would not have to buy any more equipment. Along with the software, we'll be using current subject software such as online textbooks and material presented and developed by the existing curriculum teacher. All devices that would be in use would be monitored by the district and would have to follow any network policy using the network at all times. Students and teachers, whether accessing the network at home or on site, would have to follow the district network policy. If they do not do so, they may have consequences coming to them.